All right, now that we've learned whole steps and half steps, we have the building blocks to create scales. We're going to start and spend a good amount of time on the major scale because it's the basis for so much Western music, and we all kind of have it internally. We want to break it down into these whole steps and half steps and try to listen to it with fresh ears to see if we can hear the spots where there are whole steps and half steps. Many of you already know where the whole steps and half steps are, so there aren't going to be any surprises here. If you do know where they are, try to hear them as distinct and not just part of the, this whole scale is one thing, but hear each individual step. I'm going to play it for you one time, slowly. I know it's hard to do. We've heard it a million times, and as soon as we get to like the third note, our brain kind of just predicts the rest of it and doesn't think anything of it. But hearing each individual spot in that scale, each individual step, is really important because they're not, all the steps are not equal. So we start with the first two notes is a whole step, another whole step. Sorry. Next one is a half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, right? So whole, half, whole, half. Now, we've got to figure out or practice being able to recreate the sound. I'm sure you can recognize the major scale as soon as you hear it, but half of this process is having such a clear picture of it in our imagination that we can form a reasonable semblance of it with our voice. So I'm going to play it one more time and try to sing along and kind of feel where those whole steps and half steps are for you. And I will attempt to sing along with you on this first shot. So here's our C. I'll do it one time without me bothering you. Here we go. And back down. On your own. All right. So now let's do a couple checks. I'm going to play the scale slowly and then point to the next note. And then at certain points, I'll actually sound the note that you're going to sing. And at some points, I'll leave it alone on your own. I'll try to play at a predictable speed, but try to sing the note that I'm pointing to. It should be fairly easy to predict, but let me give you an example. So if you want to do it on la or ah or da or ta, it makes no difference to me because I can't hear you. Here we go. La, 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 la. The goal is to be able to predict that interval distance and kind of stay close to in tune even though you're not actually hearing the sound. And this is like kind of baby stepping you through. And you can put in checkpoints as frequently as you want. You could go la, 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 right, etc., all the way up. We want to wean ourselves off of that as quickly as possible, but again, we've got to try to build some sort of a little bit of intonation happening so that the note isn't confused with the sounds of other notes near it. Let's do it one more time. I'll check in every 3 notes, or whatever. Try it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try it down. Same kind of thing. I'll do it maybe a little less frequently. This is definitely one you can try on your own. And until you feel comfortable, also, you know, different keys, there are different theories about whether all of your training should be done to start with in one key or in multiple keys. It's really tough to tell. I think, you know, the same recipe doesn't work for everyone all the time. It also depends on what kind of musician you are, what your instrument is, what's going to work for you best, and also where you're starting. I'll do a lot of these in C as we start, but it doesn't hurt to try some other keys, especially at the beginning. Also to kind of stretch your voice a little bit and start learning to shift as things get out of your range if you have to. All right, let's talk a little bit before we move on about methods of describing and analyzing the major scale and singing it as well. So we can talk about the scale in terms of degrees of the scale, in terms of the root, the tonic of the scale. In this case, C. We're dealing with C major at the moment. That will be 1. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or I guess you could call it 8 if you wanted to, and then back down 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when we're talking about the notes for theoretical purposes, for example, start this on the 3rd or jump to the 6th, whatever it is, those are the numbers that I'm talking about. If we're in the key of C, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and C is 1 at the octave. If we were in F, F would be 1, G would be 2, A would be 3, B flat would be 4, C would be 5, D would be 6, E would be 7, and F 1. I think you get the idea. Another way, the trouble with that singing the numbers is that 7 kind of is difficult to sing, and they all start with sometimes sounds that aren't easy to sing. So another method it's called solfege. It's a really old way of identifying the notes, and I think in some parts of Europe they still use that. Instead of calling note C, they call it do. If for our purposes, those of us with relative pitch, we'll use, if you prefer to use solfege instead of numbers, we'll use what's called movable do, so that C isn't always do. Do is whatever the tonic is of the key that we happen to be working in. The nice thing about the solfege syllables is that they're Latin, or it might be an Italian guy that invented it or something like that, but there's a lot of famous Italian singers from back in the day because Italian is good for the voice, it's easy to sing. So those syllables, if you heard the Do Re Mi song from The Sound of Music, that pretty much lays it out for you, but we'll do that really quickly. It would be like this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And what's kind of cool about, I guess, either of these systems, as we start to give names of it, if you sing the name, whether you use solfege or numbers, you can kind of like a Pavlov's dog's classic conditioning kind of thing, start to associate the syllable itself with the sound. And that can be kind of hip because then when you hear it, you immediately, that's la or whatever, like la, sol, do, ti, re, do, right? Those kind of things, it starts to jump out. When I was taught, originally I was taught solfege, so now when I'm listening to music, especially if it's very diatonic, a lot of times those solfege syllables just jump out in my head, and it can make it convenient, either the numbers or solfege, for transposition. And obviously that's very useful for all of us. So getting hip to either the 1, 2, 3 system or the solfege, it can be really useful, and I highly recommend it. But also, if that feels like too much for you, there's always just the la la la. But if you're going to do la la la, really try to keep in the back of your head at least the numerical analysis of what the scale, where you are in the scale, because like I said, we've got to remember our friends, and we got to give our friends names because hey you is considered offensive in our society. So the same thing for the notes and then later the intervals.